Okay. Have you ever been in that situation, like talking to someone and your mind just kind of like, I don't know, wanders off?
Yeah, for sure.
You walk away and think, wow, that was not very memorable,
Definitely. I think we've all had that thought about someone at some point.
Yeah, like mentally labeled someone boring at some point.
Totally.
But, this isn't really about them, is it? This deep dive isn't about pointing fingers.
No, not at all. It's more like, why does that feeling even hit us so hard?
Yeah.
Like what's going on there?
Yeah, exactly. It's a really universal experience. I think we all kind of relate to that.
It is. And what's so interesting to me is that some really brilliant minds, like some of history's greatest thinkers, have actually spent time thinking about this.
I know, right.
So we're going to explore that today, like why we have such a strong reaction sometimes to people we think of as boring.
Exactly. So you shared this really fascinating transcript with me about philosophers who've tackled this.
Yeah, it's really cool. It looks at this idea through the lens of Schopenhauer, Kierkegaard, Pascal, even Nietzsche.
Wow. Yeah. Some heavy hitters there.
Yeah, so our goal here isn't to give you tips on how to be the life of the party or anything.
No.
It's more about what this discomfort with boring people might reveal about what's going on inside of us, what's going on in our own minds.
Right. It's like, what's the mirror reflecting back to us?
Exactly.
These aren't just some dusty old ideas from the past either.
No.
They offer some really surprising insights into why we find those encounters so jarring, so unsettling sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll kind of unpack each of these thinkers' views on boredom and how they connect to our own, maybe everyday reactions.
Sounds good.
So like the main question, the core thing we're going to dig into is, why does encountering someone we find boring feel so unsettling, even kind of disturbing?
Yeah.
And what might that actually tell us about ourselves?
That's the big question.
Yeah, I think so. So maybe we can start with Schopenhauer. He was, he didn't really see boredom as like a minor inconvenience, did he?
No, not at all. It was a pretty big deal for him.
Yeah, like pretty fundamental to the human condition.
Absolutely.
He saw boredom as a primary form of human suffering, right?
Right.
Almost like the flip side of pleasure or satisfaction.
Interesting way to think about it.
So his idea was that, we're always kind of oscillating, swinging back and forth between like striving for something, desiring it.
Yeah.
And when we're lacking it, we feel pain. But then once those desires are fulfilled, once we get what we want.
Then what?
Then this emptiness kind of creeps in.
Ah, I see.
And that's where Schopenhauer thought boredom comes in.
Interesting.
It's not necessarily about a lack of things going on around us.
No, not necessarily external stimulation.
Yeah, but more like this deeper feeling of emptiness inside. So what we can take away from this is that when you feel sort of drained by someone you find dull, Schopenhauer might say it's not really about their lack of sparkle, but more about a glimpse into a potential emptiness within yourself that maybe you're trying not to.
Right. And Schopenhauer had a phrase for this, didn't he? He called it inner poverty.
Yeah.
And he argued that when we meet someone we consider boring, it's not really about their lack of exciting stories or experiences or whatever. He thought our irritation, our impatience, even a flash of disdain, it's not really a logical judgment about them, but more of an instinctive recoil from something deeper. Well, it's like they're accidentally showing us a part of ourselves that we'd rather not look at. That's where that irritation comes from, according to him. It's like a terrifying suspicion, the transcript calls, that life without constant distraction might actually be hollow.
Oh, that's kind of scary to think about.
It is, a bit. The boring person, for Schopenhauer, becomes like an unintentional mirror. And it's reflecting not their own supposed inadequacy, but the potential hollowness of our own unexamined existence.
So it's not really about their external dullness, but what their presence stirs up within us.
Exactly. He even went so far as to describe boredom as a spiritual X-ray.
Oh, that's a powerful image.
It is, right. So it reveals this lack of inner substance.
Interesting.
And he contrasted the boring individual with someone who has cultivated this rich inner world full of thoughts, contradictions, passions.
Oh, okay.
What he called metaphysical unrest.
Okay.
Think of it as that inner drive, that constant questioning and searching that keeps life interesting even when the external circumstances are kind of mundane.
I got it.
So when we meet someone who seems dull, what we're really sensing, maybe instinctively, is the absence of that vibrant inner life. And what truly bothers, Schopenhauer believed, is the realization that such emptiness is possible, even for ourselves.
Yeah, and this feeling of hollowness is described as being contagious almost, right?
Yeah, symbolically. It's not like you're going to catch boredom like a cold or something.
Right, of course not literally.
But it pulls us towards that feeling of a void. Like it's reminding us of wasted time, unexplored questions, all that dormant creativity we might have.
That's a pretty unsettling thought.
And our minds, which are naturally wired to resist stillness and silence, tend to kind of revolt at the very sight of such stagnation.
Yeah, it's almost like a form of self-preservation, right?
Yeah, I think so. Like the mind is designed to seek meaning and tension and all that. So it feels threatened by anything that doesn't seem to vibrate with life.
Right. Anything that doesn't seem to actively seek to want to
strive, in Schopenhauer's words.
To strive, yeah.
Yeah.
And this idea of, the symbolic contagion, this pull towards emptiness, it really gets at Schopenhauer's belief about how intertwined our inner states are with how world and other people.
Absolutely. It's not just about the other person. It's about what they trigger in us.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's almost like their lack of engagement is this kind of stark reminder of our own potential to just become apathetic, to sort of give up on things.
That's a good way to put it. Schopenhauer believed it taps into a deeper fear, the fear of becoming like them, of waking up one day and realizing that our passions are gone, replaced by routine, our curiosity replaced by scrolling.
Oh, wow.
Our creativity replaced by background noise.
It's like a slow fading away of what makes us feel alive.
Exactly. And so we project this fear outwards.
Right.
We label them as boring, but what we might really be thinking is, oh no, I fear that lifelessness they represent.
Yeah, I don't want to become that.
Right. It's not their perceived dullness that we really despise. It's what that dullness seems to reveal about the human condition, and crucially, about ourselves if we stop actively engaging with life.
And this really resonates with our modern culture, don't you think? Which seems so focused on constant stimulation, almost like an aversion to facing that emptiness that Schopenhauer was talking about.
Absolutely. Like modern culture is trying to immunize us against Schopenhauer's diagnosis.
Yeah, it's true.
By flooding us with screens, social media feeds, all these curated experiences.
Anything to keep boredom at bay.
Exactly. But then when we meet someone who doesn't participate in this frantic dance, someone who's maybe quiet, a bit slower, seemingly unremarkable, we feel that unsettling pulse of the void again.
Yeah, they disrupt the illusion.
Exactly. The boring person becomes a crack in our carefully constructed illusion of constant engagement.
Yeah.
And that could be pretty uncomfortable.
It is. And in their presence, time stretches out, seems unfilled.
And that can feel unbearable for a lot of people.
Yeah. So our irritation isn't just about them wasting our time in that moment.
Right.
It's about them highlighting this broader potential for unfilled time in our lives in general.
Exactly. Like they're a walking reminder that time keeps moving forward, whether we fill it with meaning or not.
Right. And Schopenhauer's big on this idea that people who suffer from boredom don't really lack things to do, but they lack things to be.
Exactly. So our irritation with someone we find boring might actually be a hidden sense of loss, maybe a grief for those parts of ourselves that are equally unformed, equally unlit.
I like that.
We might, in a way, dislike in others what we fear we could become ourselves. The mind, when it's faced with what it perceives as emptiness, instinctively recoils because it sees its own potential for that same hollowness staring back.
It's like a warning sign.
Exactly.
That's a really profound way to start. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Søren Kierkegaard.
Okay, yeah.
He's another fascinating thinker. And his take on boredom was, it seemed really connected to this idea of not truly becoming oneself, right?
Yes, Kierkegaard saw this pervasive quiet despair in a lot of people. It wasn't necessarily overt unhappiness, but a more subtle failure to truly become themselves.
Right.
He believed that many people drift through life, kind of wearing masks, playing roles.
Avoiding the real stuff.
Exactly. Avoiding the hard work, the sometimes painful work, of really defining their own being, their authentic self. So, in this view, the boring person isn't just lacking in charisma. They're someone who, consciously or unconsciously, has avoided that essential process of self-discovery and formation.
Right.
So it's not primarily about a lack of excitement in their lives, but a potential lack of inner struggle, that journey of self-creation.
I get that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what is it then, according to Kierkegaard, that really disturbs us about them?
Well, he'd probably say it's the absence of contradiction, struggle, and transformation in their demeanor. Like there's a lack of tension in their voice, maybe a certainty that feels unearned.
Right.
A lack of that sense of ongoing personal evolution.
That they've already arrived.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like they've settled into a version of themselves, or maybe an absence of self, that demands very little inner engagement. And Kierkegaard saw this as a particularly tragic form of despair. Not the dramatic outward kind, but the comfortable, quiet kind.
Oh, yeah.
A life lived without ever deeply questioning why.
Right. And our minds, they're naturally drawn to narrative and change.
Yeah.
And they instinctively reject this apparent stillness.
They do. It's like they're looking for a story, for signs of growth, for that tension that keeps us hooked.
And when it's not there, we tune out.
Exactly. Our minds are attuned to narrative arcs, to moments of drama, to the tension of risk and the satisfaction of revelation. We instinctively feel the disconnect from the stillness of a person who doesn't seem to have ever wrestled with themselves.
Interesting.
So when we're interacting with someone who seems boring, what we're really experiencing, according to Kierkegaard, is this absence of what we might call existential fire.
Oh, like that.
There's no visible sign of that inward journey, no metaphorical scars from those inner battles between the self and the world. And this absence can make us restless because it feels like it breaks a kind of unspoken agreement, that silent contract we make in every meaningful interaction.
What do you mean?
It's like when you have a conversation, you're implicitly expecting the other person to bring their unique experiences and perspectives, their soul, to the table.
Right. You're expecting a genuine exchange.
Exactly. But when someone seems boring, it's like they've shown up empty-handed, breaking that unspoken agreement.
So a boring person in this view is someone who hasn't really shown up authentically.
Exactly. Kierkegaard believed that anxiety and despair, while unpleasant, are actually essential to forming a genuine self.
So maybe those who lack both aren't more at peace. Maybe they're just more disconnected, sort of operating on autopilot.
Yeah, that's a really insightful way to put it. And our mind, even if it's unconscious, senses this.
It can kind of tell the difference.
Yeah, it might interpret their stillness not as a deep calm, but as a kind of resignation.
Not peace, but a retreat from living fully.
Yes, exactly. And the rejection we might feel isn't really a judgment on them as a person, but an existential one. We're turning away, in a sense, from what Kierkegaard called the non-self, someone who hasn't really embraced that challenging journey of becoming.
So encountering someone who seems boring is almost like encountering someone who hasn't fully embraced the complexities, the messiness, even, of being alive.
I think that's a great way to put it.
I like that.
Kierkegaard used the term inauthenticity to describe this way of being.
Okay.
Where a person avoids the difficult work of truly becoming by immersing themselves in the trivial, the superficial.
Yeah.
They might have conversations, but not really say anything truly meaningful, take actions, but never really make conscious decisions. They might live, but never truly take any significant risks.
Oh, I see.
And it's precisely this perceived void, this lack of genuine self-engagement that can make them feel so intolerable to be around.
Yeah, it's like their lack of depth makes us question our own.
Exactly, because in their presence, we might subconsciously realize how easy it is to just survive without ever really delving into the depths of life. They become, in a sense, a symbol of surrender.
Like a reminder that you can just coast through life, but is that really living?
Right, a reminder that it's possible to drift through without ever really engaging with those core questions.
And so this is what leads to our offense at boredom being more than just a preference for excitement.
Yeah, it can feel like a moral or existential judgment almost.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why boredom can provoke such a strong reaction in us sometimes. It's not just a lack of entertainment, it's this perceived refusal to engage meaningfully with life.
Exactly, to suffer meaningfully, as Kierkegaard might say.
To suffer meaningfully.
Yeah, like the boring person hasn't just failed to entertain us. They've seemingly failed to grapple with the fundamental questions and challenges of existence, the things that make us human.
It's deeper than just being a bit dull.
Exactly. And in a framework where identity, for Kierkegaard, is forged through struggle and uncertainty, even inner contradiction, that lack of engagement can feel like a betrayal almost.
Oh, wow. I see what you mean.
Like in this light, our aversion to boredom becomes almost a kind of drive toward authenticity, a revolt against spiritual inertia, you could say.
Yeah, I like that. So our disdain for the boring could actually be a longing for depth, for signs of genuine life in others.
Yes, I think so. We instinctively look for those signs of inner life, of struggle, of change, a flicker of irony, a hint of vulnerability, a confession of doubt.
Right.
And when those signs are absent, we don't just lose interest in the conversation. We might feel a deeper sense of disconnection, almost a kind of abandonment.
Yeah, it's like, what are we connecting to if there's no depth there?
Exactly, because human connection at its most profound level really depends on a shared vulnerability.
Right. It's about seeing ourselves in each other.
And the seemingly boring person, in their, let's say, neutral presentation or overly polished demeanor, might unintentionally deny us that sense of shared human experience. Like they might appear invulnerable, but maybe it's only because they're not fully present in the exchange. They are, as the transcript mentioned, almost like a mask without a deeply felt face behind.
That's a powerful image.
And so we find ourselves retreating not out of cruelty, but because there doesn't seem to be anything truly there to meet us, on that deeper level.
What we call boredom, then, might simply be the despair of feeling like we're talking to an empty room, a despair that Kierkegaard himself warned us about, saying it was far more common and far more subtly dangerous than we often realize.
Wow, a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Blaise Pascal.
Okay, Pascal.
He had that very famous quote about humanity's inability to sit quietly alone. Do you remember it?
Oh, yeah, the one about all of humanity's problems stemming from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. That's the one. And I think that's especially relevant to our discussion about why we find boring people so unsettling.
It definitely is. That quote wasn't just a clever saying for him, It was a cornerstone of his whole understanding of what it means to be human.
Right. So for Pascal, silence wasn't really a state of peaceful tranquility.
Not really.
It was more of a confrontation with the self,
Yeah, with all its baggage.
With anxieties and doubts and, well, the awareness of our own mortality.
Yeah, all that fun stuff.
So in the absence of distractions, the soul is forced to kind of reckon with itself. And what it often finds is not serene clarity, but a kind of inner turmoil. Unresolved fears, unprocessed emotions, the whole weight of our existence,
It could be a lot to face.
Yeah, definitely. So how do boring people, how do they play into this feel of silence and solitude then, according to Pascal?
Well, he might say the boring person is so unsettling, not because they're noisy or distracting. Actually, it's almost the opposite.
How interesting.
They embody this silence, but in human form. Like they don't actively try to stimulate us. They don't really divert our attention away from ourselves, pull us out of our own little internal world. Instead, they can accidentally drop us right back into that quiet room.
Oh, the room we're trying to avoid.
Exactly, right into the solitude that Pascal believed we're constantly trying to escape through noise, entertainment, and busyness.
Right.
So our rejection of them might be less about their individual characteristics and more about the situation they put us in, even if it's unintentional.
The situation of being alone with our own thoughts.
Precisely. So our negative reaction to them isn't really about them personally.
More about this internal state they trigger.
Yes, exactly. Our rejection of the boring person isn't really a judgment on their worth as individuals.
Yeah.
It's almost a metaphysical reaction, you could say.
Okay.
It goes beyond just mild annoyance.
Right, it's deeper than that.
We feel this unease, even if it's unconscious, because they're leaving us face to face with our own unexamined thoughts and feelings. What we often just label as boring might simply be someone who, for whatever reason, isn't giving us the distraction we crave to avoid confronting ourselves.
Makes sense. It's easier to focus on someone else's flaws than our own.
Totally. And most people, I think, whether they realize it or not, act as buffers against this inner void that Pascal talked about. They fill time with conversation, they offer reactions, they tell stories.
They keep us entertained.
Exactly. And all of that helps us forget about our own restlessness, at least for a while.
Right.
But the boring person, in Pascal's framework, disrupts all that.
They throw a wrench in the works.
They do. And suddenly we're aware of time passing, of our own restlessness, of this almost absurd human need to be constantly entertained.
So the feeling of boredom we get around them is actually a dread of our own unsettled nature.
That's it, exactly. And it gets to the heart of what Pascal was trying to say, that despite all our outward busyness and social interactions, we remain fundamentally unsettled.
Right. It's like we're always trying to outrun ourselves.
Exactly. And the seemingly boring person, they don't really cover up that truth. In a way, they could even amplify it.
Oh, interesting.
Their stillness, their lack of overt engagement becomes this kind of mirror. And suddenly we see how much we depend on external distraction. That's why our response to boredom in these situations can feel so disproportionate.
Right. It's more than just, oh, this is a bit dull.
Yeah, it's not just simple boredom. It's that deeper, more primal dread of our own unsettled nature that we might not fully understand.
And it's easier to blame the other person than to face that.
Way easier. So we project this feeling outward. They're boring, but the initial discomfort originates with us.
It all comes back.
It does.
So Pascal really saw all our outward activities, like our pursuit of entertainment or keeping busy. He saw those as ways to avoid this inherent discomfort, didn't he?
He did. He really understood that human tendency to flee from the uncomfortable realities of our inner lives.
Right.
By running outwards, seeking diversions in parties, work, ambition.
Anything but being alone with ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And all of that can become, in a way, a sophisticated form of avoidance.
Avoiding the big questions.
Yeah, because when we're left with just our own company, the silence can reveal not a peaceful center, but a disquieting vacancy.
Oh, I felt that.
And so when someone doesn't provide that external stimulation.
We kind of freak out internally.
Yeah, in a way. They're inadvertently reintroducing us to that original discomfort. We might even feel a little resentful toward them as if they're the cause of our discomfort.
Like, why aren't you entertaining me?
Right. But really, they're just the trigger. They remind us of what we were trying to avoid in the first place.
Right, that internal silence.
Exactly. So when we expect people to be entertaining, constantly interesting and engaging, it's partly a strategy to keep those anxieties at bay.
It all makes sense now.
It does, right?
Yeah. So the person who doesn't play along with this unspoken social script, the quiet colleague, the reserved conversationalist.
Right. The friend who isn't constantly trying to make things exciting, they kind of awaken that unease in us. And we don't necessarily dislike them as people.
It's more that we dislike what they represent to us.
Exactly. The failure of external distraction. The silence Pascal warned us about.
It's like they're holding up a mirror and we don't like what we see.
They are, in a way. And our irritation isn't just a matter of impatience, like wanting more excitement.
It's a resistance to facing ourselves.
Exactly. It's a resistance to that underlying horror, as he saw it, of stillness and self-confrontation.
Wow, this is really giving me a lot to think about.
Yeah, I think it's pretty deep stuff.
So it sounds like for Pascal, boredom isn't about the person we're with, but more about the silence they don't help us to escape.
Exactly. He believed this deep-seated fear of being alone with oneself was at the root of nearly all our problems. Yeah, he thought it was behind conflicts like war and also behind individual struggles with addiction, the pursuit of shallow relationships.
All of it.
Yeah, he saw it as stemming from the same basic refusal to truly confront ourselves in solitude.
And so when someone doesn't offer us relief from that confrontation,
we reject them. We label them as boring, like they're somehow lacking, but in truth, they're just not offering us an escape route.
That's a really different way of looking at it.
It is, right. And it makes them, in a way, almost dangerous.
Dangerous.
Well, existentially dangerous.
Yeah.
At least to our avoidance strategy. They force us to feel the passage of time, remind us that there's a clock ticking behind every conversation, and that maybe most of us are trying to outrun that clock rather than truly engage with it.
That's kind of profound, actually.
It is. That was a fundamental truth for Pascal.
Yeah.
And it's often unbearable. So our minds recoil not just from the perceived dullness, but from that silent mirror of our own constant evasion.
So much to think about already.
I know, right?
Okay, let's move on to Friedrich Nietzsche.
Okay, Nietzsche.
Now, his view of boredom was different again, right?
Yeah, very much so.
It was tied to this idea of striving and rejecting mediocrity.
Yes, exactly. For Nietzsche, the ultimate failure wasn't what we might traditionally think of as evil, but mediocrity.
Oh, interesting.
A life lived without passion, without any real struggle, without pursuing your own potential greatness.
He saw that as a wasted life.
A wasted existence.
Yeah.
So boredom, in his view, wasn't just a lack of stimulation. It was a symptom of a much deeper spiritual decay. The person we perceive as boring, in Nietzschean terms, isn't just someone who lacks exciting stories to tell, but someone who, consciously or unconsciously, has ceased to strive.
To strive for what?
To overcome, to really live in his sense of the word.
Right. So it's not that they're necessarily dangerous because they're dull in conversation,
Well,
but because they embody this kind of surrender.
surrender to what? Exactly.
Yeah, what exactly did Nietzsche think people were surrendering to?
Well, he might say they're surrendering to the comfortable inertia of the masses, to the ease of just accepting the status quo, avoiding any kind of difficulty or friction that might actually be necessary for growth. So the boring person, from this perspective, has no edge, no friction, no force pulling them toward transformation, to quote the transcript.
Yeah, it's that lack of striving that's unsettling.
Exactly. And when we encounter someone like that, our mind doesn't just lose interest. It might actually resist them on a deeper level.
Why is that?
Well, Nietzsche would argue that deep down, we recognize that the kind of vibrant, self-overcoming life he championed is totally incompatible with that passive acceptance.
It's like two completely different approaches to being alive.
Yes, exactly. So boredom, in this context, isn't just a sign of something missing, but of something that's actively detrimental to life's potential.
Oh, I see.
Nietzsche saw boredom as this scent of decay, an indication that somewhere in that person, that spark of self-overcoming has gone out.
Like they've just given up on the journey.
Yeah, his ideal was the Uberman, the individual who transcends conventional morality.
Right, the one who creates their own value.
Exactly, who embraces suffering as a necessary part of growth, who finds affirmation even in the face of chaos.
It's a very intense way of looking at life.
Yeah, very Nietzsche. And the boring person represents a kind of flattening of that ideal.
Yeah.
They lack that inner rhythm of striving and overcoming.
Right. They lack that dangerousness.
Exactly, that Nietzsche thought was so essential. They're too careful, too measured, too predictable.
And that's why we react negative.
Yeah, maybe not even consciously, but we sense that lack of vital force, and something within us shuts down.
It's like we're repelled by it.
Yeah, it's not that we think we're better than them, but that we fear succumbing to that same kind of spiritual inertia.
Right. Like, that could be me if I'm not careful.
Exactly.
It sounds like Nietzsche might have considered that passive existence a kind of spiritual death, even if it's a slow and comfortable one.
I think that's right. Not a sudden dramatic end, but a gradual decline, masked by politeness and conformity.
And we see that in boring people.
And we instinctively pull away, not out of a sense of superiority, but maybe out of a refusal to connect with what seems to lack that essential inner fire.
It's like we're trying to protect our own fire.
I think that's a really beautiful way to put it. There's a certain violence, to Nietzsche's philosophy, not literal violence, but this urgency.
Right.
He believed that life at its best requires risk and confrontation, intensity, that the soul needs to bleed to grow.
That's heavy stuff.
It is, but it makes you think. And so someone who avoids discomfort and striving, who plays it safe.
They represent what he warned us against.
Exactly, when we're face to face.